So you took me out of your.
So if you're no longer a contact.
No.
Exactly.
What about Shonda's girl?
She's got,
I brought you
I think I just saw her pull.
Thank you, ma'am.
Somebody waved at me from a car, and I think, like a split second, it was her.
Yeah, that's right.
Who is this? Young lady.
Hello, hi, come on in.
Everything's all set up for the meeting now. Yeah.
What's up, SB?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Okay.
Can't complain.
That record we had clear, like,
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting.
Make sure you just want to come back.
We will be doing 1 hour meetings, and that's it. I don't believe in 4 hour meetings, but I just want to welcome you all here. Thank you for coming, and thank you for agreeing to be a part of this committee. I'm going to go ahead and let's just go around the table and everybody introduce yourselves. I think everybody knows everybody, but we'll start there. Sean, do you want to start?
Shonda Sparrow, Principal, Spring Middle School.
Michael Ford, Principal, Randolph Howell Elementary.
Thomas Schuyler, Director of Technology. Barzak, Superintendent.
Eddie Kinzer, Board Chair.
David Moore.
Chad Howell, Board Member.
Don Morency, board member.
Ryan Jackson, Principal, Mount Pleasant High School.
We have some people that are missing, that are on the committee that are missing, and we're hoping that, that we really, just so you know, Will Evans with Maria Lyons is scheduled to be on this committee. Craig Harris with the Murray County Commissioner. Don Morrow, who is the chair of the Murray County Commission, has agreed to be on it. And I think that's all.
Would you have a problem with adding Doug McCollum to that?
No, I would love to add Doug Lacone into that. So we will definitely add him to it. I think that would be a great addition. And basically, I want these to be pretty easy, you know, not structured, but pretty easy to for everyone to speak up. And I want everyone. This is something that we need everyone to give us their real input and how they really feel. That's what we really want to know. We're going to start with. We were given 2 different, well, 3 printouts, but 2 of them have the diploma timeline and also the, what this is called, our digital, our digital.
Oh, these were basically our strategic objectives in line with the plan.
Okay.
So
We're going to start, I'm going to let Dr. Marzak start us with that, where we were, where we are now, and then where we're going. And basically what this committee is going to be tasked with is to figure out a plan to continue our one-to-one diploma program, including a revenue stream, implementation, and expectations. Those are the 3 things that I really want us to come away with after when we put this plan together. And how we put the plan together is really going to be up to the committee. Input from community, input from teachers, input from business and industry. So we figure out how we do that, we put this plan together. Now the board, we have, 5 board members here today, but it was unanimous, the board was unanimously behind us to set up this committee and figure out a way if we can do this in any possible way we can. So I'm going to start and let Dr. Marzak talk to us about lean fraud. I know Denny and David, you were here when we did this. I don't think Betty, and I know I wasn't, and I know Chad wasn't.
They made a presentation when we first got on the board. I don't remember.
So we weren't really part of this, and so it will be good for us to hear how this came about. So, Chris?
Okay, so if you go look at the diploma program timeline sheet, so the document that you have with the strategic objectives developed by Leapfrog come from the summer of 2016. And we had a district digital committee. It was made up of numerous people, teachers, principals, students, school board members, community members, central office staff. We met over numerous weeks, and the result of the work is this document that you have in front of you with the strategic objectives. And that kind of launched the work that we were going to do in the fall of 2016. To once we had the objectives, then we could start to implement the program. And so you see in the fall of 2016, we had the student naming contest. We worked with Discovery Education to create the POLL program, where teachers and students become certified to use devices before devices were deployed. And basically in a one-to-one program, there's two ways to do it, a push or a pull. So you can either push it on the grade level, push it on their school, or push it on a certain demographic of students. Or you can do what we did, which was a pull program, where people have to go through professional development and determine or show that they've demonstrated the use of the mastery of the devices, and then you're awarded devices. In the spring of 2017, we implemented the Florida Center for Instructional Technology rubrics for certification for teachers and students. If you were successful, the teacher got their laptop, they got a digital readiness sticker, and then they worked on integrating the student matrix. And if they were unsuccessful, then feedback was provided, and then there was an opportunity to reschedule a re-review to come in and see your demonstration of mastery of the rubrics. Teachers and students work collaboratively to meet the student technology rubrics. And if you were successful, each student gets their laptop that goes between home and school. And if it was unsuccessful, then feedback was provided to schedule a re-review to come back in. Once you were successful, before laptops could be given to students, there was a mandatory 30-minute training program, which Tommy Schuyler kind of head off, and we've got a celebrity voice that does our video. Who is it again? Morgan Freeman does our video. That's right. Actually, it's a Morgan Freeman person, but that's okay. And then the parents sign the forms, but we're not doing any paper forms. Everything's done on a software program called CareMonkey. So there's no having to track who's turned forms in, who hasn't turned forms in, and who keeps track of those forms at the individual schools, because the software program CareMonkey does that for us. And the four forms are device care, a parent agreement, a usage agreement, and then a user agreement. We also had conversations in the spring of 2017 about community Wi-Fi partnerships. We held 3 meetings with community members, business leaders, to establish a code of ethics. And basically the outcome of that was come on in and use the Wi-Fi for diploma, no fuss. And then that spring of 2017, Mount Pleasant Elementary School, 4th grade, was the first grade level to go one-to-one in May. In the fall of 2017, we hired a Chief Digital Learning Officer to lead the diploma program. We also implemented the learning management system, which is the other half of a one-to-one program. You have the hardware, then you have to have software to house everything. And that was Haiku with Power School. And then the principals and the Chief Digital Learning Officer conducted site visits to see effective technology integration and use. We deployed over 800 teacher devices. We deployed over 2,400 student devices. And then we held our first Ed Camp, where teachers teach teachers on a Saturday, highlighting technology integration. In the spring of 2018, all campuses were upgraded to 10 gigabyte Wi-Fi as per the strategic plan. We used diploma laptops to assist with TN-ready EOC testing at the high school level. Mount Pleasant Elementary School had been fully one-to-one since the spring of 2017, and then they were also designated a reward school based on spring 2018 testing. In the spring, we noticed that demand outgrew the number of devices that were available, and there was an order placed for an additional amount of devices at a fund balance of $300,000. But at the end of spring of 18, the Chief Digital Learning Officer resigned his position. And then fast forward to this fall, which is where we're in now, due to budgetary constraints, the order for those $300,000 of laptops was canceled. The future funding for diploma laptops were cut. The current funding for the PDL instructional software partnerships were also cut. You can see who those were. The current funding for replacement of the Chief Digital Learning Officer was also cut. Remaining laptops in the district from the original order have remained in the classrooms, but there are no additional devices funded through the district with general purpose funds at this time. And then CareMonkey was funded to support the current redeployment of devices. And then, here we are. The board has moved to establish a committee to re-energize the deployment program. And that's where we are.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. From the spring of 2016, that's a lot.
There was a lot done. I guess my question with this is this, I mean, this board, the school board just did a 4-day conference in Nashville. And TSBA, which is School Board Association Conference, 4 days, and it was nothing but technology and integrated technology in school and how important that is. I just want to make sure before we go and do all that, that we all agree that that's what we want to do, that we need to integrate technology in our school. And if we're all on the same board with that, I think there's a way that we can figure out a way to do it. Anyone want to speak to that? Principals?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Mount Pleasant High School moved from a level 1 to a level 3 after integrating our one-to-one into our system. I think that played a significant role, especially with the writing component for ELA, U.S. history. Those are big advantages having that. So I'm 100% behind this.
I can echo that elementary level with Randolph Out. We went from a 1 to a 4, and the digital push helped. I won't say that's all, but it did help. It was a big piece. A really big piece for our demographic, for our age group, was having the programs like Trainbox, like My Own, to give the kids when they're in small group rotations or in practice opportunity to really do something that's designed for their skill level, and that they can get a great way to participate with the best both groups.
So we just want to remember that when we're looking at revenue that we need, that we also include the software that we need. So not only is it devices that we need to purchase or lease or whatever we decide, but we have to be able to have the revenue for the devices and for the software in order to use those.
And also, let's make sure we keep, because I know some of the board members, a big thing they said was every child, not just K through 12, everybody. Let's figure out a way. So that was important to a lot of board members too, that we just don't, single out a certain age group. I mean, implementation's one thing, but let's find a funding stream for everybody.
Exactly.
And I just echo what these two said. We went from level 1 to level 5, and the programs did help. However, I know you said that we want to talk about the devices and the programs, but again, our teachers now are scrambling. They want devices because they found some free programs out there, but we're limited on devices.
Well, and that's something that we can also look at, which in this plan, do we need to purchase software for it, or is there free software out there?
And that's where an instructional person comes in. And just to back up, because I know you guys weren't here, the way it was supposed to work initially was, hey, teachers they're gonna pull, we're not gonna push. And when they got those devices, year 1 was gonna be like deployment. Everybody get, research-based was all anybody was supposed to do. Then year 2 was gonna be more like chief digital officers here, what software are we gonna decide on, and then uniform. We never made it that far. So that's something to think about. We're back kind of at the beginning of devices, and then, obviously software is important, but, there are a lot of free options as long as it covers what everybody needs, so keeping that in mind.
Well, from what I understand, where we're sitting right now with the Lenovo devices that we have, and I know you guys talked about it this morning, I understand, that we have contracts that are coming up that we need to, and we have no funding for that. Do you know what the amounts of those are?
We have all of them. And I know Chris is down there recording, but Chris probably knows more about diploma than everybody. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it's in May or March. That's when the next payment's due, and we know how many devices, who the devices are for, and all that. But that's what I'm saying today for sure. Any question, that's a good question. So I'm going to write that down, and if we can get a share in a document, everybody will email me if that's okay. Then we'll get a share, and everything's in the same spot, so we're all looking at the same stuff. No old documents, and it makes it even easier too if you update a document. You don't have to send a new one out. I just updated it. Go back and look, and there it is. So you want to see the lease payments and when they're due. That's what you would like to see, that document.
I would like us to have all the information. I want to know how many devices we own, how many devices we're leasing, how many devices are in each school that were purchased by RTI funds, not RTI, Title I funds.
Title I funds, yeah.
Title I funds, excuse me. And so that this committee has a list of where everything is, and also when our contracts come due, and the amount of those contracts, and then if we're gonna have to see if there's a possible way that we can negotiate getting out of those contracts with whatever we decide to do with the others. So that's gonna include Mr. Woolberg, and I talked to him, he said, when you guys figure out what you want me to try to negotiate, he said, I'll be happy to do that. But he says that we're gonna have to stick with the Lenovo, at least some brand of Lenovo is what he.
And just keep in mind too, because it'll probably cause more, I guess, questions than answers, but if you start looking at when the lease payments are due and who they are, and we've had other people, when we start talking about outside funding streams, people approach, which I'm not in a position to answer, but hey, could we not get outside funding to keep what we have? I'm going to use Dr. Jackson as an example at his school, but everybody has a device, and so to kind of take it away and put something different, not me being, but would it not make sense just to leave what they have, figure out what we got to do? Can we do that? Can we just do a partial where if a whole school has it, can we not just leave that in place? And I'm not saying that's what we need to do. I'm just saying big picture, think about everything. We've been approached, by outside funding sources if that was it, but what's that number? How many are they? That's all going to be answered once we get these documents for you.
Okay, and one thing I really want us to, I'm open to any, if you feel differently, please raise your hand, let me know. I'm not, nobody's going to get mad. But I feel like we have to have a revenue stream every year that we know where that money is. I personally would like to see it as a line item in the general fund and for technology. And every year we know exactly how much money we have to spend on technology. That's how I would personally like to see it. I don't know if there's any other way, a better way to do it, and I'm open to,
And just to bring it up, because other than that, so if there's a line item and a revenue number, is that to purchase them outright? Are we going to lease them? Because the question that Doug was asking is, he's like, hey, maybe you want to buy them. Maybe just buy them. And there's no lease payments. You buy them and in 3 years, but that doesn't necessarily keep a line item placeholder. But those are other questions that you said, hey, we need to talk about that.
Well, yes, and that's something that I want this committee to really, when we get into what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. But we have to have the information first to know how much we owe, how many we have, how much we owe, and how we're going to do this. So I know there's another Lenovo device that you were looking at that's a lot less expensive.
Yeah.
Like $350.
$330, something like that.
Compared to $743.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
And that's why I was telling him that, things move so fast that the device that I showed you guys, actually when I was at the conference, they're like, hey, that's cool, and we got those for your school board, but guess what? Next week, the new one that replaces that comes out. And I was like, hey, what we want to do, I want the school board or anybody that's considering any device that we're considering to be the actual device. So I was saying we'd probably get that device, you guys would use them, we would redeploy them, and you would get the actual device. And some of the upgrades they included are very beneficial, and that was just an upgrade that was requested. Some of the upgrades were requested in the model, but we have all kinds of options. And and not changing the subject or getting off topic, but we have all kinds of districts around us that, Marshall County did Chromebooks. I'm not saying that's what we need to do. I'm just saying, look at these options, understand the pros and cons. And that's something that will probably take all of us to understand, and then the numbers probably will make more sense that way.
Well, as far as line item goes, I don't think this is something that will never go away. You're going to continually buy computers. There's just no way around it. We're going to get rid of some, we're going to add some too. We're going to get rid of, so that line item will stay there, and it needs to stay there. Because I would like to, once these, I don't know how we're going to deploy it, but which is, for instance, if we give a freshman a laptop, I'd like that laptop to stay with that student for 4 years, and then at the end of it, we're going to surplus it really in 3 years. But we'll try to make it last 4 years in high school. we surplus it, and then we just give it to them at graduation.
I love that.
And that's a good
I mean,
point.
it's-
Some people have 4-year freshes.
Well, right, and then we don't have a warehouse with boxes of these things that we're gonna sell on drug deals for pennies on the dollar. At least somebody can maybe use them or.
Take them to college with them, right?
Yeah, they wanna take them to college, if they wanna hawk it or whatever. It's out of our, it's out of our.
And Doug will be good to answer that stuff too, because I don't know about all the transfer assets or any of that
Yeah.
stuff. So if that's possible, what we got, but those, like I said, those are all options, things that we discussed.
Okay.
Can I,
Sure.
one of the things and we talked to Will Evans about, community, the revenue source and where it should come from, and, we're training a workforce. And all of a sudden, technology is, college education is not what we necessarily need to be pushing these kids, because we're offering them all these opportunities. So we're creating a workforce of people that are going to stay here and work. And then they're going to pay taxes, and then they're going to have families. And so I think this is something that we need to sell to our industry. Like you did a great job in creating a partnership for your mechatronics. That's fabulous. And why can't we do that some way or another? Just have some, and that's why we wanted Commissioners Evans with Muriel Limes, and maybe they would join us in some sort of campaign to, and so I kind of think we need to know what the bottom line is. And she's right, we need that information. So what are we seeking every year? $3 million, $5 million, I don't know.
And that's what before everybody got here, so I'm gonna be redundant. I know they heard this, but I can't remember the school district, and I'm not even sure if the state of Tennessee. It was around 13,000 employees, students, sorry. And they chose a device. They chose the lease device 3 years. The device was $180 with the way they worked it out. It was like 2.3 something mil. Ended up being every year what their lease payment was $780,000, and that was their line item. That's what they had to work. If they got a savings or chose something different, but they had to stay within that.
Right.
But they also said they ended up partnering with some businesses and sponsoring grade levels, and hey, guess what? Whoever bought laptops, and again, we don't care if there's advertising on it, McDonald's or whatever, all 5th grade got them, they got McDonald's on. And that's one-time money, but guess what? It helped the bottom line. That 780 still stayed there. They just spent the money on something else.
Well, I don't know why we can't build partnerships. It's not, every year they donate, even if it's just 50,000. Eventually, we know, okay, we have 50,000 from that business and 50,000 from this one.
You'd have to have an initial
Exactly.
quote, though. You'd have to have an initial something to get them in everybody's hands. You might then, let's say it's what you're saying, that the lease every year was less than $1 million. That certainly could be incorporated into GDP easier than this big hump.
Yeah.
That needs a yearly sort of thing. But I just think that having been on I've been on a fundraiser where we had to raise $1 million and we couldn't do it, we did. And it was done by going to them and showing them how this would benefit the community and all that. General Motors, most of y'all weren't around when they came here, and then they negotiated this in lieu of taxes that went away pretty quickly. They haven't helped us much other than small things. But we're training people to work for them.
Yeah, they would be right in my sight.
Absolutely.
And-
And who better than those of you that had the success that you had a PowerPoint to go and say, this is what we want to do, this is what we need. What will you commit to? Because we're going to train people to work for you. You're not going to have to go find them some other place. They're going to be ready to go to work when they walk out with their diploma. I think it's an easy sell. I really do. And then we've had all these other, this area is just a boom, really, right now. And so we need to ask them to invest in it. Taxes, I don't think we're going to get that. I think that we spent $200 million on, if you look at the schools we're building, Central High School and the schools, what we need to do of taxpayers' money for what we really, really need. So I think we need to go, that's my vision, is that we have some sort of, and maybe Murray Lights to help us, maybe some of you all, some Dr. Jackson and those that have success with it, and I'll stop talking.
Yes.
I'd be negative.
Sure, always.
Sure, always.
I know, always you can.
I like, this, I guess some of this transitions over out of the panel and more just the board itself. But I've still got, there's sort of, I come back to looking at these things, and I don't have an opposition to external sources. I still see, if it, on a year-to-year basis, it's still at risk of being cut out, as it was this time, I think we're wasting our time. I'll just be honest, without a commitment, because I think it's a misalignment of our strategic plan with what we're saying we want to do. I mean, if we say that's our plan and we're not, as a board, again, this is a board side, if we're not committed to it, that if there isn't funding, we're still going to find a way to fund it, which is why I lean more towards the fact that we're going to come up with a way to fund it, and anything we get on top of that just simply moves that number around. But as a board, I feel like if we're going to commit to it, we need to commit to it.
Is there a way you can protect that? I mean, is there something you make a board policy, says, guess what, this board's committed to the integration of technology, and we plan on funding this, and here are the conditions on how we're gonna fund it, it's a worst case scenario? I mean, I don't know, I'm just asking, if you really wanna protect
Not
it,
really.
there's no other way.
If it means cutting positions to do that, would you be willing? That's what it might boil
Well,
down
I'd
to.
say just write it out, here's how we're gonna make sure that no matter what, we're gonna make sure this
In
happens.
theory, what we did was, we all voted to and agreed to a strategic plan that has this is one of the central core tenets of what we're doing, we're supposed to do. Obviously, as a board, we can do whatever we want at any given time with enough votes,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, and fortunately at times. But that's a commitment from the board members themselves, and that changes every 2 years, so that's kind of a roll of the dice. But it really has to start, whether it's external funding sources or internal, with a commitment. We're not going to pull the rug out from under it 1 year in or 2 year in.
One thing that I think, it's great to go out and ask private industry to contribute. But as the economy goes up and down, what's the first thing the private industry is going to cut? So my feeling is we need to look at something that we know every year this is coming in. And one of the things that a digital officer did,
Yep.
and myself, we went and sat down with Sheila Budd, not too long after he came in. And we sat down and talked to Joey Henson. We talked to the gentleman out of yes, about, maybe a half a cent per gallon on gasoline increase that was strictly dedicated to technology. And the word we got, we talked to some of the county commissioners, and it was, hey, election year, we're not gonna touch this after election. During election year. All right, so election year just finished, just went by wayside. And so, the way I look at it, it would be, now would be the time to sit down. I know Scott Spector would be his board.
Yeah, I would.
Because I've already talked to him about that. And probably Joey Henson, he might be interested now. But if we could get that, and it's not going to happen overnight, but if we could get something like that in place where that we know this is a constant,
The revenue source.
yes, that it's going to,
When you were looking at that, did you look at what that half cent, what the increase in revenue that would bring, what that would mean?
Yeah,
I actually saw the numbers too, I don't remember what they are, like, and that was the reason why, and if I think the goal at the time they were shooting for was like 2.3, I think,
Yeah,
or something.
something like that.
It was something like, and that would,
$2.5 million.
it was something like that would fund what we needed and be perpetual. And that was, can you fit that in? And it was obviously, yeah, we're gonna have to or whatever, but that was the numbers, they got it written, I'll try to find it.
Okay. So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm always looking for opportunity and synergy, and I think there's value in what Ms. Kinzer was expressing regarding getting these industries on board, even if it's not for the capital, right? Even if it's just a seal of approval, even if it's just the expectation, and we get this momentum, this leverage from the industries that almost forces the hand of what Mr. Beavers is talking about, saying, listen, this is an expectation of our industries. they've stamped it. We expect this coming out of the school system. Because even with the amounts of industries that I'm dealing with, when you're in the factory now, it's not just press this button and wait for the conveyor belt. You're dealing with an incredible amount of technology. So I still see a lot of value in approaching those companies, even if we don't ask for a hard dollar amount, just getting their support behind this.
And I agree with you on that. I know that Will Evans, Murray Alliance, the first question that anyone looking at this area to move or build an industry here is workforce. What is our workforce? Terry Glenn happens to be in Mount Pleasant, so Mount Pleasant High School gets a lot of visits from these industries that are looking to build out there, because they want to look and see what kind of workforce we have here. With the unemployment rate so low, it's hard anywhere to get enough people. I know some of the industries I've talked to, you can't apply for a job unless you can go on a computer and apply, and apply on the computer. They do all of their HR stuff on the computer. They submit their payroll on the computer. You can't even hire anybody like that if they can't fill out an application on the computer. And what I've said all along is, like, my kids, if I had kids in school, they would have a computer, but we have students in our schools that they can't go home and use a computer at home, or their parents can't afford to buy them a computer. They don't have that. So that's something that we have to look at, equity across the school district, and I think that putting a device in everyone's hands is, because I know a lot of school districts are bring your own device, but there's kids that, I've had, this past week, I had, for example, these kids are using their parents' phones, but they're out of minutes, and so you can't even call them. So we have that problem here, and I think that that's something that this committee is really going to have to look at closely, about how we spread this across the whole district and what we need to do that. So basically today was just to introduce everybody and then to try to figure out what direction we're heading.
When you say everybody, are you thinking devices in K?
We're not even there yet.
Yeah, okay.
We're not even there yet. We're just looking at, yes, sir.
I just want to raise my hand tall.
Okay.
And I saw it.
Can I throw a real big curveball in here? It's something I've been thinking about lately.
Sure.
I've struggled with this for a while. You said you want to know why, like what the big picture is. I would just ask people, I'm asking for an answer right now, but consider this. As we shift and start to look at a little bit of a shift towards a broader picture of the CTS side of things, other things other than college, I would ask us to ask ourselves, and this is kind of a dangerous thing, in 5 years or 10 years, or even today or tomorrow, when a child graduates, will they actually be using the device or that device or anything like that device? I know that's getting way out in the future, but I ask that because if we put a lot of energy and, more importantly, resources into putting a laptop in someone's hands today, the reality is in 4 years, they may not, that whatever industry they're in, they may never see another laptop in their life. That's a realistic comprehension. I'm just saying that as the diploma program moves ahead, that needs to be something that's kind of kept in the mindset of, are we stuck in this diploma of laptop devices and the world moving past that already while we're stuck in that and trying to run it? That's just kind of the thing that kind of popped up to me as we look at this, because you look at the numbers of what devices people are using. How many devices don't even have anything other than a mobile device in their home, and that's by choice, not necessarily by. A lot of them just don't have them because they don't need them. And when you get to a workplace, more than likely they're not using a laptop; they're using either proprietary piece of equipment that's hooked to some other equipment in a corporate, not a corporate setting, but in a manufacturing type setting, or maybe they're using a slim desktop unit in something else inside a corporate setting. I just make sure that I want to make sure we're not putting too much effort on 12,697 laptops, and we missed the point. And it's a risk we have, because this is kind of a big thing, because this is one that costs money as a board. Anyway, that's my way out there thought. Sorry about that.
We should be good for the next 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
We should be good. However, in the next 7 to 8, the shift will begin to present itself. Because even the iPad is still a interactive device, not really a creation device.
Sure.
Now, the iPad Pro is a creation device, but those run about $1,200. So it's still prevalent. It's still
I'd
practical.
like to say one more thing to time that. I guess my point on that is to make sure that as the diploma program moves ahead, the focus is not to put a device in each kid's hand.
No,
The focus is always on making sure they're ready to use whatever they need to proceed ahead.
the focus of diploma was originally to enable for students to access the world's information, to make their learning real and applicable. The device doesn't matter. It's whatever.
It's just easy for us as a board, or when it comes to funding, we start to hyper-focus on the device.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you right here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I wasn't wanting an answer.
I mean, because I disagree. But here's the thing. No, what we're putting in the hands of these students, like if we put some into the hands of a freshman right now, in 4 years, are they going to be able to use that device? No, probably not. Are they going to use something similar? Maybe. But I think the key to here is to integrate what we have now so that they can use what comes down the road later. Building blocks, yeah. And that's what did. When I went to school here in Maury County, we had Apple IIe's of them. We played Oregon Trail on. I mean, we played,
San Diego.
Now, yeah. And so now we go forward. I mean, I use a laptop every day. I got one in my police room sitting out there right now, fired up, ready to go. Little difference there. It's training them for tomorrow, and that's what we're doing.
I think maybe when we get, this is further on in the weeds, but when we get into this and start thinking about maybe the fidelity plan that we need to have with this, with academics, if you think about how we all learn mathematics, how we all learn to read, there's learning progressions. You spiral back all the way to kindergarten, and how do you build on those foundational skills all the way up through whatever. I think we need something similar with technology. So what do we expect seniors to be able to do? And that could look like whatever. We talk to these businesses, GM, build this synergy, these partnerships, then spiral that back down to kindergarten. So how do we start with simple things with kindergarten students? What are the keys on the keyboard? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is a domain, with an email or a web address, whatever. So you structure those, and that kind of becomes your fine grain size. So you think about your curriculum, you have your standards, that's the biggest piece. But when teachers are working in the classroom at any level, you should have these learning progressions built in, where they've taught, kindergarten's taught to first to second, third, to fourth, all the way up to 12, and we vertically align and spiral back. So I think that might be a neat piece, that learning progression piece.
And that's what I was going to touch on. You think about Windows 95 and Windows 10. You learn, everybody, they're all kind of relevant. They have icons, right-clicking properties, different options. Once you kind of get a baseline of knowledge, this is what we need to build. Once you get the baseline of knowledge, then you can evolve and understand. It doesn't matter if it's an ME or whatever. They all kind of stay the same device, non-device
And
specific.
so for just an example, last year with the MAP session, which is the teacher PD, we had a group of kids from Randolph out, second graders it was, that went, taught the teachers how to use green screen technology. So you have to have a green screen. It could be brick block, drywall, with a piece of cloth, but it's got to be a certain color green. Those kids could use a phone, it didn't have to be an iPhone, it could be any kind of phone, an iPad, any type of tablet, anything with basically a camera. If the teachers had an app, and the second graders at our school could teach them how to use that to pull in green screen technology. So I think the learning progression piece would be there, where we could spiral up to address what you're talking about.
Also, it concerns me at times at the high school level when students not having any experience saving a file.
Where it says online storage, cloud, they don't know.
And that's really, been a drawback of this, because this is the only thing prevalent in the home. Just getting a kid, to pull up Microsoft Word, file, save, send an email with an attachment. Just legit concerns that
No, and that's things that
we
I
try to
think
address
part of the plan.
based on the mobile
We
age.
just didn't get
But
there.
it gets to the skill side of that, I like that.
Yeah.
I just like,
Skills over device.
yeah,
I get that.
And again, on the board side, it's just really easier for us to hyper-focus on the budget line item.
Instead of-
It's relevant, there needs to be, we need to meet, because, it'd be really easy to check off the.
Well, I mean, look at this first page, it says nothing about a device. This is all about student learning and what they're gonna have to know, critically analyze, collaborate, communicate.
Yeah, what we
So-
spend most of our time on is the device and money.
And there's a lot more to it. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that.
Which is why I brought up
Yeah.
the commitment as a district to meeting those skills makes more sense, and it actually, at least stick with it.
Yep.
Okay, the next thing was community meetings. We had, Dr. Marzak and I had discussed that ways to bring this to our teachers, our other principals, our business and industry people, and the community. I love the idea of a video. I don't know how we get there or how long it takes us to get there but to have a video that we could take and show that we could give to Murray Alliance and say, show this to your prospective industry people, or that we could take to GM and say, this is what we're doing, and that we could show our parents and show our teachers and show our kids. So I don't know how we go about doing that.
I think that's really essential, that we need something, even if it was PowerPoint, but a video would be better.
I'd rather,
Right, something that would
I
have-
hate PowerPoints.
Well, I do too, honestly, but I'm just saying something visual.
Yeah.
You got stories right here. They already started them, and then you can see them.
Yeah.
But I know everybody doesn't get there, but we would like to see that everywhere. I would love to see that everywhere.
A powerful piece, and just to think about, because we're getting deep in the weeds on that, but if we have these presentations and things, if we can coordinate it with teachers, and you Skype into a classroom, at the presentation, you can Skype into one of the classrooms, any level, pick your level, and let the kids talk. We can't necessarily take the kids there, but they can Skype in and talk and have that conversation in real time. I mean, that's something, FaceTime, whatever, so.
I mean, we just met with a prospective industry that came down from significant possibly for the county. And when you tell them we're one-to-one, all kids have a device.
You gotta start sharing.
Hey, we're trying, we're trying. You're trying.
I hear you. I'm just letting you know, we're working for the good of the county, but when they hear it, and that's where I'm getting with the leverage. If we can get these industries to say, this is actually an expectation that we have. So I think that forces the hand of others.
And also, one of the things that we're doing in the Spring Hill area is like partnering with the Chamber of Commerce, trying to get on there too, because you can present fees, but they're like backlog. Trying to get to present to them, because again, you'll catch a lot of businesses that way. And then we also have a teacher who just went out into the Harvest Point Housing Development, and he took a group of kids, so they went over to meet with them. So we gave him a free plan, and he's like our web designer, he's a very PR person, so he's ready to like really go out and meet with Magna and comprehensive with this, because again, we have so many industries, especially in the Spring Hill area, that's booming, that nobody taps into them. And speaking with Ms. Melvin, she just like, they don't come out and talk to, we don't get out enough to go and talk to them, because they're there.
So by
Well,
next meeting or something?
I'm thinking that if we can put together a video, and that would be up to you guys, I think.
Yeah.
Because I know nothing. I don't know anything about birth and no babies, Mr. I'm lucky to be able to get on, so I'm following your lead on all of this. I just know how important it is, and I really believe that, nothing hurt me more than to vote to not fund this. And I think all of us, we didn't have a choice, and it hurt me, it really hurt me. But anyway, so if we could come up with some kind of video about how important devices are, that we could take and show to the county's mission, that we could take and show to Murray Alliance.
I think Murray Alliance should partner with us on making the video.
And that's fine, I think that'd be
Yeah,
great.
they put out some quality stuff.
Yeah, it is nice. It does look nice.
And that's what we talked to Will Evans about, is, we had a really good relationship with them, with the Grow Murray campaign. We kind of have moved away from that.
It limps along.
It limps along, not that, but so we feel like we're kind of ready for some kind of partnership with them. And this would be the perfect thing. I mean, they do really good work. And, but I think the video, the one kind of video that you might take to, let's say, a GM or whatever company is, look what we're going to do for you. You know, if we're able to do, look what we're going to do for you. We're going to provide you with, competent, trained workers. So there are a lot of ways, or do we just say, look, this is what I need, what are you going to do for us? So
No,
there's a lot of ways to look at it.
No, I really like the approach of what we're doing and how good it is for business and
That's what
industry.
I think it ought to be.
That's what I think that we need to do, but we put that in the hands of like Murray Alliance. If they're the partner with us, we put that in their hands and say, show this to your prospective industry, because that's their first question is, what are you doing? And it's one thing to tell them, it's another thing to show them, just like that's why they're making these visits to the schools. So, talk to Will Evans, is that a CD that?
I've been talking to Will Evans, I don't know, for about a year now, about what's our next big thing. And for me, the next big thing was always the influx of the use of technology. That's gonna be the real stake in the ground, especially with Amazon coming to Nashville now. If we can kind of brand ourselves as the digital community, we'll attract a lot of people, more people South 65.
And he asked Amazon when we
He did.
met with
Yes, and I'm sure that, you just
Something probably came
provided
up.
something up. But I also want to make sure that, and this goes to my third thing, expectations, because I know as a board member, and I know the county commission, if we're gonna put this much money and this much time and effort into that, we're gonna have expectations of implementation. And we have to have that expectation of implementation. So that's another thing that we have to look at. But I also want teachers and principals to be excited about this. And I think some of it was because nobody believed that we would have the funds to do it. And understandably, and they were right. So once we can establish a funding, a revenue stream where we know where that money's coming from every year, then I think that we can get them. But I guess my question is, how do we go about getting input for this plan? And maybe it's too soon to do that, maybe we need to figure out some things first. But I'd like to know what your ideas are on that. Input from teachers and principals, from industry and business, and from parents, community.
I think you'll receive a lot of input now from teachers, because I think they kind of realize now how important it was. Again, you didn't get a lot of support, because again, I guess maybe that's what they were thinking about, how is it going to be supported in the future, but now they're like scrambling, they need that device. Because we're having an issue now again with cell phones, because again, bring lots of devices, but we have approximately 575 diploma devices at our school. So how we chose to disseminate those is that each grade level has at least 2 teachers, so 2 teachers share a class set, which has been awesome, But I think now you'll get a lot of support from teachers as far as the input about how important those devices were.
And I'm just going to tell you, we need that. The board needs that, because as a board member, we get mostly negative, is what we hear. We need people to step up and say, this is what we heard for how long did we hear how bad diploma was? And we didn't need diploma. And diploma isn't any good, and we don't want to, not diploma, I'm sorry.
Discovery
The software.
Dreambox.
Mayan, Dreambox, that's what, Dreambox. How bad Dreambox was, how bad Mayan was, nobody was using it. And then as soon as it goes away, I start getting calls from principals and teachers telling me, oh, we need this, this is really important. But we sat here and we only listened to the negative, and that's all we can base our decisions off of. So we need you guys to step up, we need teachers to step up and give us the whole picture rather than just one part of it.
It starts with our messaging. Fear inhibits creativity. So if the teachers are ultimately afraid it's the device or me. They're gonna choose
Exactly.
me.
Yeah.
So if we can somehow eliminate that fear, that's not a concern, that's not a fear anymore, I think you're gonna get everybody coming out of the woodwork saying, absolutely, here's what I want, here's what I want, here's what I want. Just gotta eliminate that fear.
So how do we do that? How do we get that feedback, is my question. Do we do surveys? Do we have open meetings? What does that look like?
See, we have open meetings, a lot of people don't show up. I mean, surveys, everybody's surveyed out. I'm not saying, I don't have an answer. Because, I mean, I know, like I said, I know the excitement. We had some excitement rolling there at the beginning, and you're right, I think they're like, we're never gonna be able to fund it, I'm not wasting my time. And they were right, but I think maybe this time around, but I don't know if we have meetings, or if you have stuff at schools, or I know you gotta have food, or nobody's coming, that's all I know.
I think we need to have another meeting in hopes of getting the commissioners that are on it here, Doug here, and let's maybe do a little bit more of the same sort of discussion with them as to where we are. It's our consensus, the board's consensus, that we want to move forward on this. We just need input from them as to what's possible. Certainly what was discussed prior to the, taxation, if real tax didn't happen, there are all kinds of things that they might could provide suggestions as well. But I think until you get them here and listen to this discussion, we're just gonna have it again. I mean,
I kind of agree with that. I think anytime you're thinking about implementing an initiative, there's 3 parts to the plan. You have to have your implementation plan, your fidelity piece, and then your sustainment piece. I think right now we're kind of early in the implementation. I think a big piece of that, we've got to gain trust from teachers back. That's a big piece, and that's going to go with the fear thing. I think if we kind of have a little bit idea of what's our bottom dollar, what does this look like, what are possible funding sources, whether it's partnerships or independent or a combination, I think if we could take that and have that more in place and then start soliciting some feedback, I think it's going to be more valid.
There you go.
I would agree with that mostly.
Okay.
The one piece I still think, if I'm being just completely like looking from the outside, I still think there's a lack of a clear vision of how technology is integrated into what we're doing. Still think it's just not there yet.
You know what, and I would agree with you, and what the process was supposed to be, that's step 2.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say, we had an idea, but that was supposed to be step 2.
And I'm saying that if you were coming to me,
Yeah.
I'm just envisioning myself as a county commissioner,
You're
you're
right.
coming in trying to figure out how to fund this. I hear us talking about a lot of ifs and maybes and whats.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, bring me some
We gotta
real
do it,
vision
right.
here, how this is integrated, not just, we're just buying these devices at this dollar.
So this has to be updated then. You guys need to look at these strategic objectives and determine, are these still viable, are they still
Not
active?
me, I'm not on that panel. I'm just-
Well, yeah, that's really part of the community, yeah. But this is what we have to do. We've got to
I get
determine,
it.
is this a viable continuing document?
Okay.
Because if it isn't, then
I think that.
And I simply say that I think for the committee to be able to have a cohesive vision for where this is going, I think that's the biggest part of selling this, whether it be to the funding body, whether it be to industry, whatever it is, it's still kind of a little disjointed.
Yep.
And what's the vision here of
Well,
what we're doing?
And that's where all the software was born out of this idea. So when we looked at Dreambox 10 Mark's next lesson, Discovery Ed, those were all project-based, game-based, applicable learning type software that kids would integrate and use to help these 10 things come to fruition. And the device was there in order to facilitate students' ease of use
Okay.
of those software, if you will.
Here's
That was the
another
idea.
piece I would recommend. Could you imagine pulling one of the keys out of our funding?
No?
Okay. Market this and create this so that this piece is essentially a key and it can't be pulled out. We were talking about, that's how you do it. If you can integrate this into what we're doing, as Ms. Ford was explaining, in a classroom setting, day-to-day setting, what we do, if it's essentially a key to what we're doing, you can't carve it out and say, oh, we're not going to do it this year.
Well, somebody mentioned stories earlier, and I think this ties into what you're saying. We've got student achievement data.
Absolutely.
We've got workforce readiness, anecdotal data, right? I think those both tie in perfectly.
Model it out under the key model of that so that it's an integral part of what we're doing in this county. And there's no question whether or not we decide upon it. It's It's just simply what we're doing.
And you know what, the best laid plans, the one thing that was getting ready to happen,
Yeah.
you have to adjust. If something's not working, you gotta say, guess what, that didn't work. Let's try something different. And that's kind of where we were getting ready to go, because I know one school, we're sending all the devices home, it didn't work out. So then they just started keeping school. Problem solved, had to adjust. Wasn't written, wasn't documented, which needed to happen, but no matter what, it needs to be revisited like every year, no
Just
matter
like
what.
you would a key or anything.
That's
else.
right.
You're measuring it, you're measuring your success, how it's being implemented, and you're adjusting as it is. That's what I would do. But I ain't in charge.
You want to
You're hired.
You're hired. All right, it's almost time for us to go. Would everybody look at this, make notes, changes that you think should be made, and then this will be our discussion for next meeting? Yes, sir.
Last thing, which Chris is gonna be the one to help me, but we're gonna get all the lease information, where is every device that we have, counts of devices, cost of devices. We'll find some kind of share that's uniform for everybody. I think I have everybody's email that's here, but that way we can get it in one place. I think that pretty much is what you wanna know for next time, right? Devices, locations, where they at.
Yes.
How many
Laptops, right?
leases?
Not desktops, but laptops.
Devices.
So
All of
devices, every single one.
Every
I think it would be
device.
helpful to look at the,
Okay.
this is again bigger than
I
life.
just, that's what I'm trying to
And we
clarify.
have the lease payment information we put all in there, when they're due, what they're for, how much is. we have
Okay,
it.
and if you can break those down from laptops to leased diploma.
We have it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and break it
All of
down
that.
to all
We do
the,
inventory right now with them,
okay.
but we have.
So I think that's, we'll look at that,
Yeah.
and see what we have and where we can go with that. We'll look at this and see if we need to create a new vision for this. Yeah, this is a good start for us, but we may want to create a new vision, make sure that it's something that, that we can't
That's the way to do it.
change and, or eliminate.
I'll
And then,
see Don and Craig tomorrow night. I've got a financial management meeting and the banquet. I don't know if you're going or not. We're going, and we're trying to ask them what's a good time. You know, a banker getting here at 3, your principal as well, but, you know, it is hard time. Maybe 4 might be better, or prior to their budget, they have budget meeting, I think, on the 11th. We're thinking about a good meeting time.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, do you have this, this committee, all the email addresses, it was like a distribution list for
Yeah.
maybe send out and ask if there's a better time?
Or make a choice, give them dates, but we've done that with the financial management. They'll say, choose a date, with, you know, or if all of those dates are okay, or if one's good.
There's a piece of software that does that, it's freeware. I'll get with you, we'll pick out a couple dates and we'll send it out.
Okay.
Pick your time, what works best for you, and then we'll join those.
Okay, is there, and then, do we want to meet, we're on a pretty tight schedule to do this, because we will know better, but now, Jake Wilbur told me he thought one contract was up in February. He told me, okay, so that's wrong. But we know it's either March or May. So in May, if we don't do anything, we have 3,200 devices, close to that, somewhere around 3,200 devices that we are going to take out of kids'
And teachers.
hands, teachers and kids' hands.
And their desktops are already gone, so the laptops are all they have.
So, my question is this, would you guys be willing to meet twice a month until, okay, all right. So let's look at twice a month,
Okay.
and if we can't get the commissioners and Will here at twice a month, at least once a month with them, that we can pull them in and let them know where we're going. with
Can you
this.
add Doug, send Doug an email?
Yeah, if Doug's interested in being on it, I would love to.
And Chris is experienced, he knows more about it than anybody.
Yeah, and Chris, these are open meetings, we have to have open meetings
Yeah.
because we have more than 2
Board members.
board members on it, and more than 2 commissioners. So with the sunshine law, they have to be open meetings. So anybody's welcome, and they will be conducted like this with input from there. I'm willing to take input from anyone, because I think this is something, the more people we have that are, interested in voicing their opinion, the better off we'll be.
And before we go, if you don't mind, and I guess maybe this is probably a good time to wrap it up, Marzak, he knows Ms. Walker, is one of our teachers, who she showed this video, you were talking about the videos, the one-on-one, for her doctoral class, but she also shows this to the students, and you should see her score, she's a level 5, so she bought into Dreambox, she bought into Mayan, so she bought into these programs, so she created this for her class, but also for the students, which gets them really fired up, so you can walk out.
It was a teacher created
The
video.
teacher created this.
Can you send that to us?
I will, I'll send it to you.
It's a link to.
But it was really, it just talked about the integration of the diploma.
Just that purple gold, it's magic. Yeah. We go to the state championship, that was when that was the first time we were going to that.
When did she create this?
Huh?
When did she create this?
Created it. Last year?
You may have shared it or something, because I'm feeling like
Yeah.
I'm seeing this.
But it gets the students so motivated, fired up.
Well, this is a good source to have too, with very light seeing it and all that sort of thing, that's just great. But do send it to us, because I'm,
We didn't even get into some of the stuff that you guys probably really. Hey, and guess what? If you can solve them, I'm in.
So yeah, so I'll send it to you guys too.
Please do.
Yeah.
And thank you all for coming, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you willing to put the work in.